Hello lovely people and welcome back to my channel. First of all, I'm not sure how much it's coming across on camera, maybe you can't really see that much, but in case you can, I'm going to just explain it shortly. I have all of these like spots here on my forehead because I just dyed my hair, and I normally just wipe everything off with just a bit of warm water before I let the color, do its thing. But this time I forgot, and by the time that I realized that I had forgotten to wipe it off, it had already dried out, and turns out once it has dried out, it's really difficult to get it off. I realized it's very distracting and it's not very pleasing to look at, but unfortunately there's nothing else I can do about it. This Project 5 Wears is going to feature a palette that is extremely special to me, and that is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. I have lusted after this palette pretty much since it came out, and I convinced myself on several occasions that I don't need it. I talked myself out of buying it so many times when I saw it on sale, and I had finally decided that I really am not going to buy it, because as beautiful as it is, as much as the color story speaks to me, I have comparable shades in comparable quality from Pat McGrath, and it's really not worth for me to spend this kind of money for something that I probably already own. So it was a done deal. I wasn't going to buy the palette, and then it came into my life in a very special way. This palette is a gift that I received from my beautiful friend Bia. For those of you who remember Bia, you know that she has a YouTube channel, and she hasn't really been active on her YouTube channel for the last maybe half a year or so. I think at this point it's longer than half a year. It's absolutely not my place to disclose any reasons why that is going on, but the thing is, Bia was one of those people that I had such a instant click with, and I just vibed so much with that I felt super sad when she left YouTube, and I felt like I'm really losing a friend that I would like to maintain contact with, even if it is outside of the makeup realm. So I actually asked for her phone number, and we have been chatting on WhatsApp ever since. As I have said many a time, the existence of my YouTube channel is justified just for this. Just for me making a friendship with Bia will already be enough to justify the existence of my YouTube channel. I have been lucky enough to make many more friendships, and I want to also mention this is not the first time I receive a present from one of my fellow YouTubers. I have received presents, I have sent out presents. Everything that I have ever received from anyone from you, either subscribers or fellow YouTubers, either it's makeup or something completely non-makeup related, I cherish. And I will cherish for the rest of my days. Things like this I do not take lightly. I had no idea that Bia had any intentions to send this palette to me. She asked for my address because we exchanged presents and she wanted to send me something, and she mentioned that it was something that had my name written on it, which could have been really a variety of things, but not for a single second did I think that she was going to make the jump to get me the Natasha Denona Gold palette. So I will forever and ever cherish this palette. I will be buried with it, just like a few other things, including my KitchenAid. But above all, thank you, Bia, for accepting my friendship. I am sad for the Mariam and Bia in a parallel universe that never met and never got to be friends. Now, without further ado, I don't think any of you do not know how this palette looks like. I'm guessing that most of you don't really need an introduction to the Natasha Denona Gold palette because you have seen it so many times. It's been out for a really long time already. The reason that I was really attracted to this eyeshadow palette is, first of all, the rich golds, the two pops of blue that fit so well with the golds, the nice mustardy shade over here, not to mention the several topper glittery type of duochromes that I have been so enjoying ever since I was introduced to them by my Pat McGrath palettes. This is the reason that I was so attracted to this palette, and I have to say that very few Natasha Denona palettes before or after have been able to catch my attention and to have me lust after them as much as this one. Let's get started on Natasha Denona's Gold palette, which is absolutely gorgeous. For today's look I chose something super simple because I wanted to do something that doesn't take me really very long. That's one of the things that I really love about this palette. I always achieve really beautiful looks in a short amount of time. So, for starters, I applied this shade over here in my crease and just blended it up. Then I mixed in these two shades, so the somewhat deeper medium brown and the really deep brown, onto my outer corner. I applied it in a V shape and I tried to pull it out a little bit in a cat eye shape form. What I did next is I applied this brown metallic shade all over my lid without glitter glue or spraying it, just all over my lid because I wanted it to be a base for the beautiful topper shade over here, which shifts from sort of like a pink to a lime green. And this is one of the coolest shades in the palette because you can layer it over top of other shades to give them a little bit of that beautiful lime green sparkle and like the tiniest bit of like pink reflects. But you can also wear it on its own and it also looks really beautiful. It's just a bit more sheer. Now what I did after that is I applied the tiniest bit of this topper shade over here because these two shades in particular, so this one and this one, they're both topper shades, but both of them have this quality that, I don't know whether you're going to be able to see this on camera, they make everything look wet. They don't have much pigmentation to them. You can apply them on their own for like a very sheer wet effect on the lid, or you can also wear them over top of other shadows. That is how I primarily use them. I layer them over top of eyeshadows because they give the most beautiful like wet effect to your lids. As soon as, let me not waste the shadow, let me put a bit of it onto the centers of my lid. As soon as you put it on your lid, you immediately see how you get a little bit of that glass effect. It's so beautiful. On my lower lash line I kept it really simple, just the tiniest bit of the dark brown to marry with the outer corner on the upper side of the lash, and then on my lower lash line I applied this sort of camel brown yellow shade, mustardy shade. It's really beautiful, one of the most unique shadows in this palette. In my waterline I have one of my Kiko eyeshadow sticks. This one is in the number 46. 46 is a sort of like a pink-green shifter. It's a duochrome. It looks really beautiful with a variety of different looks, and I think it pairs really beautifully with this look in particular. On my lips I have one of my H&M cream lipsticks. This one is in the shade Charmed Life, which looks like this. I opt for my H&M cream lipsticks quite a lot when I wear the Natasha Denona Gold palette because I have a bunch of like more brown leaning nudes in my H&M cream lipstick collection, and they pair really beautifully with this palette. So for today I chose Charmed Life, and I think it pairs really beautifully with the rest of the look. Good morning guys, I'm gonna try to be really concise because I have to run to work in a few minutes, but I just wanted to tell you what I did for this beautiful blue look that I did with the gold palette. So I wanted to do something with using a lot of the blue shades because honestly I've been so concentrated on like the golds and the neutrals that I didn't really pay so much attention to the blues in this palette, but the blues are really pretty, so I thought let's give them the spotlight for a change. So I started off the look with this brown shade over here because I felt like it was the more neutral brown shade in the palette. I wanted something that's not leaning too yellow or too mustardy because I wanted to keep the transition shade a little bit more neutral. Then I went in with the dark teal blue shade over here. It is a matte shade. I can't say this one is my favorite. It feels a little bit dry, and as if once I pick it up on the brush I have a really hard time depositing it on my lids for some reason. I don't really know why. Once it's on my lid it does blend out fairly easily, but I do feel like this shade takes a bit more work. Then I put down a glitter glue and I went into this blue topper glittery shade over here. This shade has a bit of a sheer base, so if you put it on your lids on its own, you are going to have to build it up, and preferably over the glitter glue because otherwise it doesn't really work on its own very well. Or you're going to have to put this one underneath it as a base. But it did work out, and also I was planning on putting other things on top of it, so for me it wasn't really that much of a big deal that it's a bit sheer. So over top of that I actually put on a little bit of this shade, this topper shade over here, which also gives you that wet effect just like the one here. And I did put a tiny bit of the duochrome like pinky green, just because I wanted to have a bit of like that interesting green effect going on. So I feel like the layering of all these shades achieved a really beautiful effect, but yes, you have to layer a lot. In my inner corners I also have this shade. Then on my lower lash line I applied a bit of the blue towards the outer part of my lid, and on the lower part of my lash line I applied this neutrally bronzy gold shade to just connect with the blue and have a little bit of a pop of something different. And that's pretty much it. In my waterline I have a green pencil and a gold pencil, nothing too interesting, so I'm not even going to bother showing you these. On my lips I have one of my H&M cream lipsticks, which you're going to be seeing so much with this palette. This is a really beautiful mid-toned peachy brown nude. I really love it, and I feel like it works really well with this eye look. Apologize for the Speedy Gonzalez style, you guys. I hope that you didn't mind it. I just wanted to let you know what I did for this look because I really wanted to include it in the Project 5 wears. But now I really got around because we have a meeting in half an hour. See you soon! Look number 3 with the Natasha Denona gold palette comes to you at a very interesting time in our history as humanity. We are about to go on like worldwide lockdown because of the COVID-19 outbreak, and I'm literally waiting for an email from the hospital where I work for everyone to be sent home, or for the ones who are not necessarily needed for patient care to be sent home to work from home, because at this point it seems like social isolation is the only way we can deal with, avoiding an exponential growth of people who are very sick and who need immediate patient care, and the hospital systems, like the healthcare systems around the world, crashing because of that. So, very interesting. We're not ending this decade in a very positive way. Australia was hit by unseen bushfires. China was hit by this new virus. Let's see what this year has in stock for us. But in the meantime, let's chat about something as mundane as makeup, because we have to distract ourselves somehow. So I still prepared to go to work today. I will see whether they will send us home eventually, but for now I'm going in my full-on work attire, and I wanted to tell you what look I did with the Natasha Denona gold palette, which is blinding my camera, so I'm just going to open it and show you. I really love the look I created, you guys. For some reason, actually not for some reason, the palette is amazing, so every look I create with it I really enjoy. Today I was kind of tempted to do something that is a bit more golden, and to use a shade that I hadn't actually used on my lid so far, I think, and that is this one over here, which is sort of like a very interesting neutral gold. I applied the camel mustard brown shade over here through my crease. I deepened up the outer corner with the deep brown shade. Then I applied the golden shade over a glitter glue all over my lid. Then I spritzed my brush and I applied the tiniest amount of this shade here, the duochrome, because I wanted to give the center of the lid especially a little bit of a green tint to, match up a little bit with my clothing without doing a full-on green look and being too matchy-matchy. The lower lash line I applied the tiniest amount of the dark brown towards the outer corner. Then I applied this beautiful brown shade over here into my waterline and to connect with the inner corners. And in my inner corners I have this beautiful shade over here. It's one of the wet toppers, as I call them. It looks beautiful in the inner corner, and I just think such an easy to execute look, but it looks so impactful and so vibrant and so rich, and so it has so much dimension to it. I love this palette so very much. For my lips I chose another one of my H&M cream lipsticks. I know you're seeing me use these a lot lately, but if that's not a testament to how much I love them and how much I recommend them, I don't know what is. The shade that I'm wearing today is the shade Cinnamon Toast, which is the beautiful shade of cinnamon. And that is pretty much all that I have going on for this look. It's actually quite simple, fairly neutral, but beautiful nonetheless. Well, hello there! Since we last saw each other, they did indeed send us home. Not going to go into details, everyone knows that there's a pandemic going on around, so let's just distract ourselves with a little bit of makeup and the fourth look that I did with my Natasha Denona gold palette. This is what I consider to be the classic Natasha Denona gold palette look, because I feel like it pairs all the different aspects of this palette. So you have the deep blue, the gold, the duochrome shades, and they just all look beautifully together. So let me tell you what I did. I started off the look by blending this eyeshadow into my crease. Then in my outer corner I applied this beautiful deep teal blue shade. Then I applied a layer of glitter glue because I can't live without glitter glue. I applied a little bit of that gold shade into my inner corners, and towards the center of the lid I applied this gorgeous flaky duochrome shade. In my inner corner I have this topper shade here, which has a little bit of a sheer base to it, a little bit of a flaky formula and like a gold sparkle to it, so it works really beautifully as an inner corner highlight, and it's normally the shade that I use in my inner corners when I use this palette. Then on my lower lash line I kept it super easy. I have the deep teal in the outer part and the lighter blue shade in more like the middle part of my lower lash line to connect with the inner corner, and I don't know why I keep doing this. Anyway, this is pretty much all that I did for this look. I love how this look turns out. Every time I do it, I think it's the boring, classic Natasha Denona gold palette look, but it's one that's a classic for a reason, because it has stood the test of time and it always looks beautiful. The lipstick that I chose to pair this eyeshadow look with is once again one of my H&M cream lipsticks. This one is in the shade Charmed Life. And I think it looks really beautiful with this lip. Honestly, I think Wellies and Tweed would probably pair even more beautifully because Wellies and Tweed has, it's a bit lighter in color and it's like the most beautiful peachy nude to fit with this eyeshadow palette. But I didn't want to be boring and use the same lipstick again because I'm pretty sure I used it in one of my previous looks. Or maybe I'm wrong, I'm mixing up videos at this point. And things have further escalated. We are in an almost near lockdown now, so we are in much more restricted conditions than we were the previous time I talked to you. Anyway, so let's finish off this Project 5 Wears look. For today's look I did something fairly simple because honestly I'm not going anywhere, I don't have that much time to do makeup or to film, so we're just doing something really simple, and I wanted to dig once again into this duochrome shade over here. So I started off my look by just applying the this mustardy camel sort of shade all over my lid and blend it up into the crease. Then I applied a layer of glitter glue and I basically applied this beautiful duochrome shade. I don't know whether you can see that. It shifts from like a pinkish bronzish shade to a intense lime green. Beautiful, beautiful shade. I applied this all over my lid. I decided that I still want to add some smokiness and some depth to the look, so I decided to use the dark brown to intensify my outer corner and also just pull out the shape of my eye a little bit. So I put the deep brown over here in my outer V as well as on the outer part of my lower lash line. In my inner corner I have this shade over here. It is a beautiful neutral tone of gold. And then on my waterline and the rest of my lower lash line I have, oh no, I'm lying, I have this shade over here, which is a really beautiful metallic mid-tone brown. Overall a very simple look. Also on my lips I'm wearing something very simple. It is one of my Suku lipsticks. This one is the Moisture Rich lipstick in the shade 01, which is a gorgeous peach shade in a very like moisturizing lip balmy type of formula, which is great because my lips are a little bit dry. Okay guys, so I decided to add a sixth and final look to this Project 5 Wears because as I was about to start editing this video I realized that I never really did anything that was totally neutral. I always had one of like the green shifting duochromes on my lids or the blue shades, so you couldn't really see the full potential of this eyeshadow palette because you never really got to see the actual neutral part of it. So I figured let's do a final neutral look just so I feel like this Project 5 Wears shows you all the versatility of this palette. So to achieve this look I started off with this mid-tone warm brown over here, which I put through my crease and above the crease. Then I deepened the outer corner with the dark blue shade, so I just took it a little bit onto the base of my lashes and then I pulled it out into a cat eye shape, and I applied also the tiniest bit on my lower lash line just to connect nicely with the upper lid. Then on my lid I applied glitter glue and I just used my fingers to apply this shade over here, which I'm not really sure you're going to be able to see. It's probably one of the most stunning shades in this palette. Then in my inner corner I applied this shade, which is very similar in texture to this shade, but it's just more translucent. It has a very like white gold shift to it. It's like in my inner corner, so you can see how much more brightening it is compared to the lid shade. Then on my lower lash line I applied the tiniest bit of this shadow over here just to connect with the inner corner, and because I couldn't really help myself I have the tiniest bit of this shade just very close to the inner corners. This look is quite neutral, nothing too groundbreaking, but I really feel like I would not have shown you the full potential of this palette if I hadn't done a look like this. Normally I would have paired a look like this with a red lipstick, but because I'm not really going anywhere and I'm probably going to take off the lipstick in a bit because I'm going to have lunch and, you know, just be around the house, I decided that I'm going to go for something a little bit more nude, and I wanted to stick with Natasha Denona even if I don't feel like this is the perfect nude for this look. I think something maybe a little bit warmer would have been better, but just to stick with Natasha Denona I applied my lipstick in the shade Noah, which is one of her I Need Nude lipsticks. It looks like this. Honestly, with a look like this, pretty much everything goes. Overall, not unexpectedly, I very much enjoy using this palette. I have loved every single look that I've ever done with it. It's one of those palettes that you can throw 3 shades on, call it a day, and still look really stunning and really put together, just because the shades have such amazing quality to them. Now let's talk a little bit about the eyeshadow palette. There's very little that I can criticize in terms of shade selection. I do really love the addition of the different types of gold. So first of all, this is a neutral gold eyeshadow palette with a pop of blue. What makes this palette so interesting is that you get so many different versions of gold. You have this beautiful rich gold over here in the middle, which happens to be one of my most favorite shades in here. Then you have this gorgeous neutral gold, then you have this more like bronzy gold, you have this beautiful topper shade over here, which is a bit more neutral but has like slight golden undertones to it. Then you have this flaky topper shade over here, which has a very sheer base but a little bit of like gold reflect to it, and it makes your eyelids look almost wet. Then you have this gorgeous shade here, which is like a bronzy pink, which shifts into a lime green. It is amazing. This shade reminds me very much of Fire Opal from the Pat McGrath Bronze Seduction palette. The difference is that this one is a little bit more subdued in terms of its texture. It's still really beautiful, but the Pat McGrath shade is flakier and more glittery. I really love this shade. It's a very interesting tone of like a mustard camel sort of shade. It's very beautiful. I personally think it pairs really beautifully with these blue shades over here and just overall with the rest of the palette. My only criticism would be these two shades, the two mattes over here, the mid-tone browns. I can see that they have different undertones to them, but frankly I feel like on the eye there is so little difference that I didn't really need to have both of them in there. I think the space would have been better used to add something, I don't know, with a little bit maybe more green tones to it in terms of like a metallic shade. This shade over here is absolutely spectacular. It's gold with a bit of like a reddish shift to it. It is probably the flakiest shade in the palette, but it happens to be my most favorite shade in here because it is just so stunning. It is this beautiful sort of like red golden green shifter. I don't know whether you can see it. It's so pretty. And it looks just so foiled and so rich and so vibrant on your eyelids. Really love the palette. There is a reason why I was lusting after it, and I'm really grateful to have it. I do think that to date, for me personally, this is the best Natasha Denona eyeshadow palette out there because of the color story, because of the undertones of the eyeshadows, because of the quality of the eyeshadows, and because of the variety of textures. This is something that I really enjoy nowadays, the variety of textures in eyeshadow palettes. I hope that you guys enjoyed this Project 5 Wears video. Thank you so much for watching, and as usual, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content, and I'll see you next time. Bye!